On a dark, stormy night in 1831, at the legendary Frankenstein Manor, mad scientist Dr. Victor Frankenstein faces mounting pressure from his creation, his undead son Eric, to craft a wife for him. Victor is extremely hesitant to proceed with the experiment, but his so-called son wants to taste life, just like a normal human being. Scared of his threats, Victor presents all the morgue body pieces, and Eric falls in love with one head, the soon-to-be head of his beloved bride.
This is the face of my true love.
Soon after, when the thunder and lightning is at the very peak, Victor does his magic, and with his electrifying technology, the impossible becomes possible, and the bride is born. Victor tries his best to calm the bride with all her fears, but she panics upon seeing Eric, her confusion fueling his heartbreak. Eric did not have the patience for Victor to calm her down, so he ruined it. Over the following weeks, Victor takes on the task of teaching the bride to speak, much to Eric's frustration, as he is frustrated over not being able to connect with his bride. One night, after yet another failed attempt to win her affection, Eric violently confronts Victor in a fit of jealousy and anger, accusing him of the bride's rejection before storming off in tears. The bride tries to console Victor, who is thrown against the bed.
I am fine, my dear.
As Victor continues to guide and teach the bride, they share many moments of joy and laughter together. Somehow, their relationship evolves into a romantic affair, resulting in Victor giving her a tourmaline necklace as a token of his love. The bride adores it, truly. One fateful night, Eric witnesses Victor and the bride banging on the operating table, just like wild animals in heat, as they share their mutual love for each other. Consumed by rage and jealousy, Eric resolves to eliminate the obstacle between him and the bride. Taking advantage of her absence, he murders Victor in cold blood. When the bride discovers Victor's mutilated body, she engages in a violent fight with Eric. After overpowering him, she deserts the manor, accidentally setting it ablaze as she flees, though she loses her necklace in the chaos. As the bride turned on Eric with all guns blazing in a fit of rage, she pushed him into the flames and ran away. Eric was heartbroken and didn't stop to get himself out of the flames. He just went outside, still in blazing flames, and collapsed on the river water in a near-death situation. Eric gets knocked out from the burning pain inside and outside. The water takes him far away that night, and comes in the morning, he gets washed ashore. Eric is then found by a dog and a blind gypsy woman,
What have you found, boy?
who then brought him into her house and attended to his burn wounds with her home remedial cream. Eric doesn't understand the kindness or the treatment, but the woman is patient with him. Eric slowly recovers under her care, and while the gypsy woman plucks tomatoes, he joins them, asking many questions. Eric enjoys the apples and learns how to see the real beauty from his mind as the blind woman shares her wisdom. He once went hunting with the dog, Ivan, and brought a full turkey for dinner, shot dead from an old shotgun which he liked. Bogdana, the blind woman, expresses her joy of having Eric living with them, and Eric thanks her for nursing him back to health. But after some time, Eric fully recovers and breaks the bad news to Bogdana. Eric decides to start his journey to look for his bride. The gypsy woman cries with a heavy heart, since it would be hard for her to live alone. But Eric locks the dog Ivan outside and does end the gypsy woman's life with an iron pot. A mercy killing, if you must say. In the centuries that followed, Eric relentlessly chases after the bride, determined to win her love by any means necessary. Despite his persistence, she manages to outwit and defeat him in most of their encounters. Throughout the 19th and 20th century, the pursuit never stops. Until today. The Bride and Nina Mazursky reaches the Frankenstein Manor where the bride was born. They eventually step into the manor, while a woman watching from the nearby lookout house afar reports the incident to Eric Frankenstein, who is partying on a yacht and has been long awaiting the arrival of his beloved bride. It's time for him to start his chase once again. When the Task Force M returns to the United States headquarters, Eric Frankenstein has taken to the skies, and he is observing them from a helicopter. Misinterpreting the friendship between Flag and the bride as romantic, he becomes enraged on the spot and takes his anger on the flying assistant. Later, he kills the pilot of the helicopter and crashes it down, focusing on hunting down his new mortal enemy, General Rick Flag. Meanwhile, Flag attempts to warn the Pokolistani authorities about the princess's planned assassination, but is ignored due to the language barrier. He races back to his own home to get ready, but upon returning home, he is ambushed by none other than Victor Frankenstein, who accuses him of stealing his bride. After a brief fight, the misunderstanding is resolved over tea, where Flag offers a partnership. Eric is overjoyed with the newfound sense of hope and relief as he fully commits to Flag and his mission. He promises to reunite Eric with the bride if the monster helps him thwart Ilana's murder first. At the Pokolistan State University, Professor McPherson is doing her class on Themyscira and starts asking questions about it rather intimately from a female student.
What are your 3 favorite things about Themyscira?
Outside, Rick, Flag, and Eric are watching this closely through the window, and they are thinking the same. Eric and Rick then have to do a little show to go unnoticed from the suspicious college eyes when everyone starts looking at them. They then decide to head to Professor McPherson's house to do some investigation into what's really going on. Although Eric only wants to see his bride. As Rick and Eric get down on Professor McPherson's house, they see a woman walking a cat in a leash, and Eric remembers his gypsy days with the woman. That is a very bad omen. Rick picks the lock and enters the house with Eric, who is constantly chatting Rick about his bride. Rick orders him to check downstairs while he investigates upstairs. Eric is once again taken aback when he sees a cat playing with a leash in the living room. But the real drama unfolds when Rick discovers the dead body of the real Professor McPherson in her office room with her throat slit and blood pooled beside her. Rick calls Eric up, and they witness the imposter, whoever they may be, entering the house as they get ready to hide, which Eric does not take seriously and annoys Rick very much. The duo goes halfway down the stairs and notice the imposter takes a seat on the couch after feeding the cat and starts playing fricking Xbox. What the bloody murder is going on? Is that just too cool or simply being lazy? Anyway, the imposter slowly turns into a pulp of gooey mass in front of them, and Rick tells Eric it's the dangerous shapeshifter Clayface. They try to sneak out the door behind him, but Clayface is too cunning to let that happen. He turns back and attacks them, getting hold of Rick and gulping down Eric inside him. Well done, Frankenstein. That helps a lot. Rick Flag is finding it hard to counter Clayface, and he gets a good beatdown. Eric is stuck inside the monster but appears from time to time, trying to reach outside to the electric plug base. He succeeds finally and electrocutes the monster, knocking him out. He is disappointed to find his friend Rick Flag almost dead from the beatdown, as he has a lot to ask and learn from him. The very next day, at the local airport, the pilots are getting ready to take off a private jet. But Victor Frankenstein has already massacred the 2 travelers and orders the captain to reach Pokolistan as soon as he can. The captain calmly goes back to the cockpit, takes his seat, and reroutes to Pokolistan. Eric lands in his motherland Pokolistan and pays the pilots generously. He is determined to meet his bride and end this exhausting chase once and for all. Eric is taking a taxi to the Pokolistan castle while explaining his lifelong hunt for his beloved bride. On the contrary, the driver is on the verge of having a heart attack, poor guy. Meanwhile, the creature commandos infiltrate Poco Castle by climbing a tower. Weasel jumps on the guard and the bride takes on from there, massacring the guard and beating him into a pulp, while Eric watches admirably from the courtyard. He noticed her as soon as he got down from the taxi car. As the bride and the company get themselves into the guard tower, Eric climbs the tower after them. Eric arrives to deliver Rick Flag Sr.'s message, but is shot by Bride before he can explain himself, seemingly leaving him for dead. Not the way to treat your lover, I'm afraid.
Rick Flag.
Save it for hell, you stupid
Somehow,
piece
Victor
of
Frankenstein
shit.
is alive, recuperating at the home of the old woman watching over Frankenstein Manor. Sharing a meal with her, he vows to continue pursuing Bride with renewed determination. As he makes his declaration, he grimaces at the soup, calling it disgusting. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next season.